What's going on, game players? How are you guys doing? I'd like to welcome you guys to the Analog Circle Podcast Roundtable Discussion. And this week, I have a very, very special guest joining me today. He actually works at Boss Key Productions, where you guys might know that studio as being the guys behind Lawbreakers. Ladies and gentlemen, gamers out there, I want to welcome to the show Mr. Tramell Isaac. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm good. Just happy to be here. What's
up? Thank you for actually being here. It's greatly, greatly appreciated, Tramell. Now, very, very quickly, for people that don't know, which is something I've always wondered about. You know, you got so many people in the background that do a lot of the heavy lifting. And then you have the guy in the forefront. Someone, I mean, we could take, for example, who's a guy? I don't know. Shucks, we can even say Cliff Blazinski. Everybody knows him as the guy at Boss Key Productions. But the people, the unsung heroes, as I like to call them, who really do a lot of the work, don't really get the credit that I think they deserve. So for you, Tramell, could you actually tell the listeners out there what it is that you do at Boss Key Productions?
So I'm the art director at the company. So I'm art director on Lawbreakers. We're only working on Lawbreakers at this point in time. So that makes me the only art director at the company. And to kind of like bridge off into the question that you have, basically about unsung heroes. We've got about 65 people at the company now. We've been in business for about 3 years. And pretty much everybody, plays an important role in bringing the game to life. We got, being such a small company, everybody has to wear multiple hats. So, each individual, be it on the programming side, design side, or the art side, audio side, or in community engagement, each one of those people are probably doing double duty just to get this product out of the door.
Wow. Now that really does sound like a heck of a task to actually accomplish with such a smaller team. With that, actually, since you guys are a smaller team, what exactly is the work schedule like with a smaller team? Is it the typical, 40-hour work week, or does it go a little longer?
I don't think I've ever worked a 40-hour work week in my career, and that's just honestly speaking. That's not being braggadocious or anything like that. I actually like working. So, and I like learning things. So, being at the job, 50, 60 hours a week is really not a problem for me, because I'm learning new stuff and, researching things and trying to make things easier for other people on the team. But our normal kind of consistent work week is probably around about 50 hours a week. And that's just, fairly basic, I would say. And that's, and it could go up and down depending on the type of the time in the production cycle. Earlier on, like when you're trying to figure out things, like get all your processes down and try to figure out like what the technology is all about, and, trying to get your look and feel down, all of that stuff. Like, that's where all the discovery is made, and, people kind of buckle down and put in as many hours as they can during that process. And then once you get into full production and everything's kind of like figured out, then it can settle down a little bit more. And then, as we lead up into, show season, like E3s, PAX, and things like that, then for those demos or for those shows, we do special builds and then try to make sure that those are all buttoned up. So anybody who plays the game at those conventions actually has a good experience. So, I mean, it ebbs and flows throughout the process. It can go up to like 60, 70 hours a week. Back down to 40, and then, spike back up again. It all depends on like what time of year it is.
Gotcha, Tramell. Now, I just wanted to really quickly just get a better understanding of your position, because it seems like it definitely plays a very big key role in the production of the project as it's coming along. So for people like myself that don't know exactly what is the art director.
I mean, that role can vary depending on the company. I came to Bosky from Sony, so at Sony it was a slightly different role. Here at Bosky it's a different role. And I'm assuming that anybody else out there who's from different companies will probably have a different set of responsibility. But for myself here at Bosky, my role can range from dealing with personnel to look and feel to marketing art to external art assets or outsourcing, things like that. Wow. To just basic kind of things that make the environment for the artists on the team or for everybody else on the team a little bit more palatable. So it can range from different things. Like I said, we wear a lot of different hats because we don't have a marketing department, because we don't have a marketing team or anything like that. I end up doing things that are more marketing related, as well as dealing with personnel on the team, training people, mentoring people, making sure the game, making sure that we have the tools to make the game properly, making sure that people don't have roadblocks in their way, making sure people feel like they're being fulfilled on a daily basis, just dealing with the day-to-day of the production of the game, as well as, trying to, be forward thinking and making sure that our processes are as streamlined as we possibly can. So as we move into the live product phase of Lawbreakers, as we maintain the game and add more content, it becomes easier for us to do than it was during production. Therefore, it's more cost efficient, more easier to produce, and it allows us to produce more content with a smaller team. So, I mean, it can range from from actually creating content to dealing with personnel issues to dealing with, the next project, as well as so on and so forth. So it's a lot of things that I have my hands in. But my main focus is my main focus is to make sure that the people on my team actually can come to work and do their job without roadblocks and without impediment.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds like a very big undertaking. It sounds like you're really the backbone of a lot of things, when it comes to the production and everything getting done, making people feel, comfortable and kind of guiding them along the way, being a mentor. That's a lot on your plate, brother. That's a whole lot. Oh,
yeah, I mean, it comes with the territory. That's what we signed up for. Like everybody who came to Boss Key signed up for a different level of responsibility than what they were used to when they were working at different companies, because the majority of our staff came from larger companies, Sony and Nintendo and Activision and EA and all of those other companies. Most people came from that environment where they were kind of stuck in, like, I'm just a concept artist, or I'm just a 3D modeler, and all I do is make widgets all day, and that's what I do. But when they came here, along with myself, it's more like, okay, you're not going to have those backups, you're not going to have the redundancies. You're going to feel bad when you take a vacation because there's nobody to be filling your shoes, and that's just the way it is. Wow. And that's what we signed up for. So hopefully all of our efforts going into Lawbreakers will, soon be realized and come to fruition, as people start playing the game and start enjoying the game and it gains in popularity, and then we can continue, doing the things that we love to do.
Definitely. I must say that it definitely got a spike in attention, the game, when it was actually announced that it was going to be on the PlayStation 4 first and not the Xbox One, but PlayStation would be getting it first. So a lot of people were very excited, even people where the game could have probably been on their radar, but it wasn't a game that they may have been very, very interested in, it really spiked. I mean, I started seeing a whole lot of different articles that were having you guys right at the forefront, Lawbreakers, PS4 exclusive, and I think it really did well for you guys, actually, as far as the word getting out about the game even more so. Just to ask you now, I'm sure this is probably something you can't cover, but I got to shoot the shot, Tramell. I got to shoot for it.
Yep, go for it.
Do you know why that deal actually happened, as far as the game being on the PlayStation 4 first before the Xbox One? Was there a reason behind that, or is that just the way the business goes sometimes?
Well, I'm sure that there was a business decision behind it. I'm not privy to all the ins and outs of that, so I'm not going to speak on it.
No problem. Definitely understand that, Tramell. Definitely. Now, just to backtrack, though, like you were saying, a lot of the guys that are at the company have come from many different companies. You yourself, you have actually had a very lengthy career in the gaming industry. Going back to 1996, when you were actually with Interplay, I believe. Please tell me if I'm right about that. Might be wrong, but I thought it was
1994, actually.
Okay, whoa, 1994. Yeah. So that is right at the cusp of the 32-bit era. You were actually right there. Has there been, in your opinion, a big difference between how things were done back then with the 32-bit era versus today? Or do the...
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
It's completely different. I mean, the processes are all the same, but just dealing with the production of it all, like at some level, there's still like this level of kind of garage type game development going on. But then once you get further into the weeds, then it becomes more of a business. Like when I can remember, like when I first started, it was a small company, and the team that I was working on was maybe 8 to 10 people, just for the whole game. And that's just the way it was. And, teams were really small back then. If you did like a, fairly decent, game with a small time frame, with a very small budget, then you could make out, pretty good, because you didn't have to, pay back a crap ton of money like you do now. So like productions now, require 2.5, 3 years for major production, and hundreds of people, along with, hundreds of outsourcers and marketing budgets and all these other things. It's turned into big business. Also, all the ancillary things that spin off of games, like esports and things like that, cosplays, so on and so forth. So yeah, it's completely different, mainly because it's more of, like, when I was making games were basically considered a waste of time. Like, why would you do that? It's like a waste of time. Now it's a pastime. Now it's part of the culture. Now, people, games are getting, movies made out of them. And that's been going for a while, but that's just part how the culture has transformed itself over the years. Now it's mainstream. Now the video games are, they got TV shows that dedicated to video games. They got, esports and how big that is. And, it's just bigger and bigger. And now, they, trying to infiltrate, VR into your life and have these things, where VR is only going to be applicable because of the advances that video games have made in that space. So now that, video games are actually influencing how technology is being used throughout the world. So like in the medical field, or architecture, or anything else that VR could be used for, all of the advances that we have, because we need the frame rate and the speed, we're going to be pushing that technology to the next level, so that these other categories can actually utilize the things that we've actually sweated out and actually figured out. So I mean, it's come from being some kid in the basement playing a game, wasting his time, in quotes, to being part of the culture and influencing other avenues and other genres of basically gaming in industries and things like that. So I think, if you look at the history of it, just even the same thing, kind of like the way hip hop was back in the day, has had that same kind of transforming effect on just culture in general. Now, hip hop is, embedded in today's culture, and now rap is has for the first time beat out rock and roll as a number one music being played around the world. So that's how games has come along in that same kind of trajectory. So yeah, I think it's completely different than it was when I first started.
Yeah, what you said, Tramell, is actually very interesting to me as well, is because now we seem to be in this renaissance of, indie developers. A whole lot of indie games have been coming down the pipe since, I would say, the 360 era, maybe midway into the 360 era. But it's interesting to know that this is nothing new. These small man teams have existed basically since the beginning of gaming. So do you think what do you think has actually propelled the smaller guy to actually be able to stand a chance of being up there with the bigger names like your Ubisofts and your EAs and your Rockstars?
Yeah, it's been the tool sets. The tool sets that's now available to people, and all the information that's out there. YouTube has changed a lot of ways how things are being done. Like, people are learning things on YouTube that they couldn't be before. And I was having this conversation just a couple of weeks ago. Imagine if we had YouTube when I was a kid, it'd be over. I'd probably be dead by now because I would have done something stupid and blown myself up. Just that information available to kids nowadays, just incredible. So utilizing Unreal Engine and utilizing Unity, if you want to pick that up, you want to make your own game, you pick it up. There's tutorials right there on the websites, tutorials all throughout the internet, tutorials on YouTube. And you can just go out and find out how to make certain things. If you want to make a shooter in Unity, how do I do that? Where do I begin? You just type that in, and you've got somebody who's got an example of what they've done, or a cover-based system that they've created in Unity or Unreal, and that's up on the Unreal Marketplace, where you can just download a module and just pick that up with some blueprints out of Unreal on the Marketplace, and then you utilize that in your game. So all these bits and pieces are all around in the out there for you to grab. So now it's easier for you to just make a game. Only thing you need to be concerned about is the creative aspect of it and your imagination, and you get that stuff going. The technical aspect is somewhat automated in some way, where you can take these bits and pieces and create a game. Ark is a perfect example of that. PUBG is a good example of that, where you basically, you start off with a small team where they're taking community assets and creating a game out of it. The only thing they need to be concerned about is the creativity of it, not necessarily the production and the creation of art assets, which is the most time consuming and money consuming portion of game development. Creation of art is, a large chunk of your budget. So if you can, avoid having to do that and just focus on the creativity of it and the design of the game, then you've got a lot of spare time on your hands. And the only thing you need to know is how to hook it up and, in the way that makes your design shine. So yeah, there's a lot of, avenues for people out there, to be able to create their own game that wasn't there, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of part of that renaissance. It's part of that drive for people to, go out there and do it on their own. And there's, you can list off the tens of the hundreds of, indie developers that have done it and done it well and, receive awards and created, got accolades and created followings based on one idea and one really good game that was well done, small and, kind of tightly done, not this epic kind of GTA 6 or none of these things that really matter to the masses, but games like FTL where you create something that's, or Hotline Miami or things like that where people are just kind of gravitate to them because they're super fun and compact and easy to digest. So yeah, I think that's it. The tool sets are just easier accessible.
Yeah, for an example of that as well, Cuphead. I don't know if you've been following that game, but that game looks absolutely phenomenal. And to know that it was two brothers, I think they were brothers or friends, had actually come together to make the game, and to have it at that level, of graphical fidelity is pretty amazing. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. So that, along with what was it, Ori and the Blind Forest as well, which is one of my favorite games. Just the art style and just these graphics that they're able to produce, to be an indie studio is just amazing. So I can definitely see how, being able to have these different tools and access to these different things that were not there, like you said, Tramell, 10 years ago, it could definitely give these guys the fuel and, put the fire in them to really be able to go out there and do something great. Because I remember when I was trying to do it, man, it was, wow, 97, 98. Oh my gosh. It was nothing out there. It was a book that I had got. It was at Nobles, Barnes and Nobles. Went up there. This was around like 2006 maybe. And the book that they gave, well, not gave, but I bought, it had so much code, and it was C++, and just, it looked like jargon. So
yeah,
it was nothing I could do with it. I tried to stick with it, but my goodness, it was so hard to even get a foothold in it. I just had to give it up. Tramell. I said, look, it's just not for me. I thought it was, but no. Because
it's not for everybody. Certain, it's only a handful of people that are driven enough to deal with all the bull jive that requires them to be self-taught. Like it's a handful of people. Like people always ask me, what school should I go to? And I was like, well, if you got the drive to deal with it, then just learn it, because the information is out there. Just go out and learn it. But yeah, that's not really the route for everybody. Some people need to be taught, and some people need to be, shown. But then there's other people that are just like, forget it. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna go ahead and do it myself and go for it. So, yeah, I think that's the thing that's driving those indie developers, is they've got that drive that to be able to just like take all that information and digest it in a way that they can use it and get it going.
Yeah, it's really amazing for anyone that can self-teach themselves to do this. That is definitely amazing. I know it takes a lot of hours and a lot of commitment to be able to do that. Tramell, I also wanted to ask you this as well. Now, you did mention that you had worked at Sony. I believe it was it the SEO division?
Yeah, SOE.
SOE, yeah. SOE.
At Sony Online.
Yeah, the question I wanted to ask you, Tramell, is SOE is usually, they have been known for the online aspects of gaming, right? Is there a difference between working on a game that's actually campaign-based versus a game that's actually just strictly online?
Yeah, it's a huge difference. Like, basically, it kind of breaks down to how you want to spend your money. Because most online games don't really have, you don't have these, cutscenes and things like that. And you don't have to worry about storyline and things like that. Storyline is basically kind of loosely based. So, if you want to compare something like, an Uncharted series to something like Lawbreakers, which is most likely, it's not really an MMO, but it's a live product that we're going to be working on for, extended future, where we don't have to worry about a story that connects from one level to the next. You jump in the level, you play the game, you get a little backstory on the characters, and then as time goes on, you find more about the characters through playing the game and actually, like videos that we'll put out. So like the difference is like the upfront experience in something that's a campaign is more about teaching you what the character is about, teaching you what the game's about, how all of these things relate to one another all in one sitting. You know, if you're talking about an online product like Lawbreakers, where you'll get those bits and pieces over time, and it's more of a discovery process, where it's kind of like, you know, it's more akin to a TV series that's been going for 7 years, where you knew about this person, you knew a little bit about somebody in the first episode, but then by the 40th episode, you already know like what that person's about, what the world's all about, and so on and so forth. It kind of reveals itself over time. So I think, you know, for like campaign games, they're more like movies.
Yeah.
You know, you find out everything you need to know in that movie, bam, it's over with, the game's over with.
Right.
You know, like online games is more like TV series where it's like, okay, here's a little bit of information. You're going to find out more about this person in episode 48. And then you know, it all leads up to that. And then that's basically the difference between, you know, campaign and online product.
Gotcha. Now, Tramell, since you've actually, you know, been on both sides of the fence, do you think that the online gaming side of things will take over the campaign? Because I know some people had taken what Phil Spencer said out of context a little bit, saying that, you know, yeah, campaigns are, you know, basically they're great, but, you know, you get your money more so on the online side of things. So people thought that Phil was basically saying that they wouldn't be making any single player games because more of the focus is on online gaming. Do you think that that is the future and that campaigns will take a back seat to the online experience, or do you think that it'll be pretty much the same way throughout the near future of gaming?
I think it's going to be, it's going to go in waves like it always does, right? I mean, because multiplayer gaming has been around since forever, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we've been playing multiplayer games. Yeah, we've been playing multiplayer games for a long time, as well as campaign games. And so it's going to be, you know, I think a lot of it is going to, you know, hinge on like the economics of it. Obviously, if the economics aren't there for a campaign to be sustainable, then yeah, more people are going to, you know, kind of lean toward multiplayer games where they can just get a fun game out. People have fun with it. They play it, you know, for X amount of time and then they move on. But there's still going to be an outlet. There has to be an outlet for companies that want to tell that story, that want to build a brand and want to build an audience for that. Like Naughty Dog, I don't think you'll ever see them create a game that doesn't have a single player component that's intriguing and fun to play and everybody talks about. Mm-hmm. You know, Naughty Dog is a flagship company for Sony that sells PlayStations. And as long as we got consoles that need to be sold, you're going to have those products out there. And even if we didn't have those consoles, there's still going to be an audience for that type of game. So let's just say everybody stops making single player games. The last person making single player games is going to make a mint. So there's always going to be an audience because people are looking for those stories. They're looking for that experience. They're looking for that getaway. When they pick up a game, they don't want to just get slaughtered by a bunch of bums online. They want to try to escape, you know, the day to day.
Definitely.
And, you know, have some fun with it and then be able to talk about it when they get to work the next day and say, oh yeah, I played this game for a couple hours. You know, I probably got another 30 hours and so on and so forth. And those are the types of experiences that still need to be there for people to feel fulfilled in the gaming space. So I don't think, you know, this is going to be, you know, it's going to be ebbs and flows where it's like, just like when you get the latest game fads that comes out, it's like you got, you know, MMOs was the shit for a minute and then that kind of died down and now it's MOBAs the shit that's going to be, you know, in card games, all that's the shit. And it's going to keep going back and forth where you have like where the focus is, but I don't think it's ever going to be like, oh, RTSs just don't exist no more. Right. Or story-based games just don't exist no more. Like, I don't think it'll ever be like that.
Right. Definitely. Now, that's a good point. I mean, I really want him to stay around because I'm not a big online player only because I get washed. You know, I get on there
exactly.
and I mean, I'm getting destroyed. So for me, I usually stick to the campaign for the most part. And then when you go online and you try to learn, you got the people out there, man, you can't keep up. Get them off the team. You know, you get kicked out the match next time. So it's like whatever. But, you know, so I would definitely want campaigns to stay around for sure. Another question I wanted to ask you, though, Tramell, for you personally, how difficult was it for you to get into the gaming industry? Because it seems like for a person like me who's on the outside, you know, figuratively looking in, it just seems like, man, it's a very, very hard and long road to get in. So for you, how difficult was it to really get your foot in the door?
I think I got in at a good time. Now the competition's stiff, and it's mainly, like I said, it's mainly because pretty much anybody can get the education that they need to do the job, so that the competition is super stiff. So there's a lot of great artists out there, a lot of, you know, great concept artists, great modelers, great animators. You know, I started off as an animator. I went to a school for 2D animation. So video games wasn't even in my purview when I graduated. I wanted to make movies and wanted to make commercials and TV shows and things like that. But I've been playing video games since I was 5. So, you know, that was kind of something that I enjoyed doing while I was animating. You know, that's just a part of me. So, as far as like getting into the industry, I got out of school. I continued to work on my portfolio. I was sending out my resume and my portfolio to different spots and, you know, trying to find a place where I could, you know, actually practice animation and continue to do what I learned in school. I happened to be, I guess, one of the best guys at the school. And then when a guy that graduated a year before me and went to a game company, and they needed another animator. And because they had success with him, they decided to call my school and find out if they had any other graduates that were good. And then they called me. And that was just kind of like how it happened. Wow. It wasn't like I was seeking it out.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, I've been playing video games since I was a toddler, basically. And it was just appealing. It's like, okay, cool. You know, first gig, let me do this. Let me go ahead and animate. I get to animate and I get to work on video games. Cool.
Oh man. What was the first studio that picked you up? Out of curiosity, Tramell.
It was a studio called Tachyon. It was we were working on the game for Interplay, so we were actually a third-party developer for Interplay.
Okay.
Interplay was the publisher of a game called Blood and Magic that I worked on. Tachyon formed out of a bunch of people that used to work at Sierra Online.
Oh,
so
man.
Way back in the day, you know, Sierra Online Games, they were up in just south of Yosemite. So it's just like this little small town, and Sierra Online was there. And then, you know, eventually they had people that were at the company from the get-go. They started breaking off and forming their own studios in that same area.
Okay.
So I was part of one of those kind of like satellite studios that popped up after Sierra Online had made their mark on the industry.
Wow, yeah, Sierra Online, man, they were behind, what was it, King's Quest?
Yep, King's Quest, Police Quest.
Yeah, Police Quest.
Police a lot of games. So they had like a huge, you know, list of things that they could, you know, that they could draw on. So, it was just at that point in time, like I had played Sierra Online games prior to, you know, even being around there. So I knew exactly what they were capable of. So it was awesome to just kind of be in that same area.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Now, Tramell, this is going to be a bit of the question that I'm going to ask you. It's not to be offensive, but it is something that I do hear from various gamers out there that talk about this. But for yourself, being in the industry for quite a long time, how does it, make you feel when people say that devs are cutting corners and they're being lazy in the production because every game now you need a day one patch and, they're not putting their all into these products? Me, myself, personally, I don't necessarily believe that that's the truth because, first off, for anyone to do what you guys do, it takes a lot of work. I mean, even on an off day, it takes a lot of work, and I think that sometimes it gets to the point where deadline becomes an issue where the team may want to go ahead and polish up a few things, but because they're under that deadline, they say, no, push it out the door and we'll patch it later. I don't know if that's how true that is, but how does that, make you feel when that's, said in the industry from the outsiders, of course, gamers?
Yeah, well, outside looking in, that shit don't faze me because, I mean, obviously, like you said, like people don't know they don't know the real deal and they don't know like the thought process behind that. So that's just coming from a point of, I don't know. And from what I see, I think you're, cutting corners. And it could be true in some cases. Some companies could do that, but I couldn't say in all cases that is the case. Cause that would just be just plain old silly. Cause there's no all things are all the same for all things in the world ever. So I would say in most cases, you just run out of time and there's a lot of stuff that's on, there's a lot of stuff that's on your list and a lot of things that you want to fix, but in order to this is a business. This is a business. And in order to stay in business, you have to first and foremost create, work on great products and create great products, but you also have to create a product in a timely fashion. There's been plenty of times where I've been on games that's taken way too long. I worked on this game called The Agency for SOE.
What?
And
are you serious?
Prior to me getting on The Agency, they had been in production for like three and a half years, and they didn't have anything to show for it. So in that case, it was like it was a case of mismanagement. So they brought in a whole new team to kind of revamp it and redo it and get it all ready to go. But by the time we got it to a point where it was even sustainable, and they had already spent five years on the product. So it's just like, okay, well, there's no way we can recoup the costs on that. Why keep pushing it? By the time you get done, 6 years in production, that means we're going to have to it's going to have to come out and, run like gangbusters and everybody's going to love it. Or we can just cut our losses, use it as a tax write-off, and then just say, all right, well, let's not even put it out. So in that case, it was more of a, just like, okay, this is what it is. We're not going to even put this game out because it's going to cost too much. In other cases, it could be, let's go ahead. If we can make this date for whatever quarterly returns that you get. So people may not understand this. Like, okay, publicly traded companies like EA and so on and so forth, they got stockholders to concern themselves with. And if they don't make a product launch on a certain date or before a certain date, then they lose share. They lose their stock prices drop because of that. Not so much for just not making, more so for not making the date than actually producing a game that was not necessarily of the highest expectations. So at that point, you're talking about, if I push it out the door a little bit early, maybe we can still make up the time and patch it and so on and so forth. It'll be just fine on day one, et cetera. Still make our date. Stock price stays the same or goes up because the game is good. Like, there's a lot of decisions built into that. So for that day one patch, it's not necessarily because, oh man, I'm not going to fix that. We got plenty of time. Nobody's saying that. There's like a million other bugs that everybody's trying to fix. And then to get to that day one patch, you're like, well, shit, this is all we got left. We can squeeze this stuff in. These are the most pressing things. And in addition to, there are things that don't get found until that time has cut off. So like, if you are creating a box product, like anything that goes on the shelf, not digitally downloaded, you're creating a box product, you have to have that game done at least 2.5 months before it gets on the shelf. Because if you're going worldwide distribution, that means you have to get it through certification, which means that Sony and Xbox actually played the game, didn't find any bugs, everything's hunky-dory, and they say, hey, it's good to go, thumbs up, send it to the presses. It takes another 6 weeks to create the product. And then you're talking about transit time and so on and so forth to get it to the places that it needs to be on a certain date. So there's a lot of stuff that people don't understand. So if you send this out 2.5 months before your ship date, in those 2.5 months, you find something that's broke, well, you're going to not fix it?
That's a good point.
You have to fix it. You got to fix it. And that's what the day one patch is. That day one patch is what you found over the last couple of months of that production cycle where when those discs is actually being produced and duplicated and off to the duplicators, that's your chance to say, all right, well, we played the game 100 more times, while these things were being duplicated, and we found some other bugs that were, really annoying or things that really need to be fixed. We're going to put it in a day one patch. That's so that nobody ever, can ever see the stupidity that happened that didn't get found by multiple QA departments and so on and so forth. So it's, that day one patch is more for the consumer than it is for anybody else. It's less for the developer. It's more for the consumer because nobody wants to be seen in a negative light. So if anybody's receiving that day one patch and thinking, oh man, these guys are bums because they want to fix some stuff for me, that sounds counterproductive, right? It sounds like you want to be slapped in the face first and then you want somebody to fix it. So yeah, that doesn't really make any sense. So like I said, I think most people just don't understand that whole process. And once they do, then it's a little bit more understanding of why these things happen. It's got nothing to do with devs being lazy. Nothing.
Right. Yeah. I, can definitely see that and understand that, it's a lot that goes into it. And like you said, first and foremost, it's a business. So if the decisions that are being made may reflect negatively on the bottom line, predominantly that's what does matter the most because people do want to stay in business. And how do you stay in business? You make smart business decisions. So like you said, you got to know when to, pull out of a deal. Like the agency, I remember that vividly being on, I believe it was the E3 stage. This was years ago, though, Tramell. And everybody was so excited about it. Everybody was pumped up. And now it's become a thing where everybody says every E3, the agency is going to come back. It's going to make a comeback.
That thing's not coming nowhere. Buried and gone. Not going nowhere.
Oh, man. I guess, Tramell, I got just maybe 2 more questions. I got to ask you this. How has it actually been working with Cliff Bleszinski and the team, on Lawbreakers over at Boss Key?
To be honest, it's probably been the hardest job that I've ever had in my career.
Really?
And it's not because people are assholes or anything like that. It's more about the pressure that we all put on ourselves to create something that's good. And nobody wants to come out of the gate with the first game of a newly formed company that just flops. Nobody wants that. So everybody's pushing 110%, 120%, doing whatever they can to, make the game a better game. And that kind of pressure, internally, externally, like all of that stuff, it can wear on you. So like for myself, I don't need anybody pushing me. I push myself. I'll go through the fire because that's the job I decided to take. And that's just who I am. I'm gonna roll it till the wheels fall off. So, and I think a number of people at the company feel the same way. They're going to, burn it to the ground before they give up. So I think that kind of pressure itself ultimately is unhealthy, but that's just who we are. Wow. We all want the best product. We all want, this company to succeed, and we all want the product to succeed and to be seen in a positive light. So, people are going to be working, extra hard to make sure that happens. So I think just in general, just the people, not just Cliff, just the people that we have on board. No, none of them want to fail. I don't think we have anybody that's lackadaisical about any of this shit at work, period. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody takes this super seriously, and they're very passionate about the things that they do. So yeah, I think that alone in this environment with this type of game, and then going up against other companies that produce these type of games, that all makes for the perfect storm of everybody's going to be dead by the time this thing comes out. So it just, like I said, it's probably the hardest job I've ever undertaken. Now that we're through the eye of the storm, for the most part, I can look back on that stuff and say that we did it. Mm-hmm. And we did it with a small team, and we produced a crap ton of content with a small team. All of it, most of it under budget. And we've done some things that I've never been able to do at other companies. And that's the biggest difference for me, is that I was able to come here and actually make a difference. And I think a lot of other people on the team feel the same way when they weren't able to do that at other companies that they were at. If you're working at Ubisoft, I mean, how many people they got? Like 7,000, 9,000, 10,000?
It's a humongous team. Huge team.
They got a gang load of people. So It's really hard to find your place in that. If you're working at, I know that Ubisoft has smaller studios. If you're working at one of those smaller studios, yeah, you probably would have the ability to feel like you made a contribution. But that's what we are. That's what we are at Boss Key. We're 60 something people trying to make a difference. Everything that you do counts. There is no off day. There is no, somebody else will pick that up, or if I don't do it today, it'll get done tomorrow by somebody else. It doesn't exist at Boss Key, because there's one of everything.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just there is no redundancy. If we lose a technical artist, we're done.
Right. Thank you for not saying the word.
Exactly. We're done. So if we lose an animator, we're done. It's just that precious.
Right.
And everybody feels that pressure, Mm-hmm. So that's, I think that's what the reason why people pick up these challenges. For me, that was the reason why I picked it up. Because I get bored really quickly. And if it's not pushing me mentally, not giving me a challenge, and I'm not learning anything new, I'm not teaching it, I'm not making a difference, I'm not doing any of those things, I'm out. Because it's a waste of time.
Right.
Why spend your time doing something that's not fulfilling or changing things or moving things forward when you can go somewhere where you can actually make a difference? You can feel like you're productive. You can be learning things. You can make a difference, making changes and changing people's lives at the same time, and doing all of those things. And at the end of it, you produce something that's worthwhile, that people enjoy, and, have fun playing it. So I think that all of this is kind of the perfect storm of people pushing super hard, being super passionate about their product, and then the craft that they chose, just being really humble about our position in this industry. Nobody has any nobody's coming into this on Lawbreakers team saying, hey, we're going to defeat everybody out there. But what we're saying is that we're going to go out there and we're going to put the best product on the shelf, and the people are going to decide, because they're going to feel that passion that we put into it. They're going to feel the amount of time and effort that we put into this product, and they're going to know that, hey, this not only is this a good product, that team is an awesome team, because they can achieve more than what their size actually dictates that they can do. So, yeah, it's been a good ride.
That's incredible. I mean, that's very, very awesome to hear that. Truly, truly. That'll wrap it up. Hey, I want to thank you so much for your time and all of your insight into some of the things that go on in the industry. But before we wrap, are there any last words that you would like to say to the listeners about Lawbreakers, Boss Key Productions? The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, everybody, we're going to be shipping this game, Lawbreakers by Boss Key Productions, August 8th. Go out and get that. You can pre-order it now. Get the Dead Zone Deluxe version. The game is $30, $29.99. Normally, just you get your regular old core edition for $29.99. You get the Dead Zone Deluxe edition for $40, $39.99. And that includes 6 extra skins that you can only get in Dead Zone Deluxe, and some weapon skins and some other stuff. So go ahead and pick that up. You can pre-order that now, all on the website. You can pre-order it on PlayStation 4, and you can pre-order the PlayStation 4 Collector's Edition from Limited Run Games. So go ahead and check that out. I think that one's running like $60. I think it's got like a bunch of stuff. It's got like a journal. It's got some stickers. It's got a bunch of cards with the characters on it. It's got the game in there. And it's also got all the things that go into Dead Zone Deluxe. So 6 different skins and so on and so forth. So go ahead and pick that up. Support your boys over at Boss Key. Really appreciate you having me on the show. Yeah, you'll be seeing good things from us in the future. We're going to keep pumping out content for Lawbreakers. We got a bunch of stuff coming up that people are going to love. Can't wait to share that with you guys. So stay tuned, and keep playing the game. Beta is this weekend. So if you listen to this, before this is over with, go ahead and pick up the game and play it on PlayStation 4 and PC right now.
All right. Well, you heard it here, guys. Tramell, once again, thank you very, very much for your time. It was greatly, greatly appreciated.
Not a problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. And for you listeners out there, if you want to get in contact with the show, you know you can do it 2 ways. You can either call in and leave your comments at 443-261-4607, or you can send an email to the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. Guys, I was your host, Keon Mitchell, and I was here with Mr. Tramell. And that is going to wrap it up for this week. But we will be back at it again next week. So until then, you guys take care. Be safe out there. And remember, it's not about the consoles. It's about the games. You guys take care.